Critical Blast, where pop culture gets blasted.
And good evening, everybody. I am RJ Carter, Senior Managing Editor here at criticalblast.com. And it is time once again for the LCS Guys show, where we sit around and talk about comic books with not really local comic guys to me. One of them is local, and they'll all be local to somebody. Hopefully one of them is local to you, and you're tuning in to watch for that. Welcome to the show with me, Mr. Yule Carter from Fantastic Comics in Berkeley, California. Yule, how are you tonight?
Wonderful. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to this show.
And from Little Rock, Arkansas, Mr. Michael Tierney, Overstreet contributor and politician at large. How are things down south today?
Oh, everything's going great. How about you?
So far, so good. It's been a nice rainy day that didn't turn to snow.
Yeah, we got the rain. No snow yet.
Well, hopefully it's not going to be snow, but tomorrow it might be. That's what you're hearing, Dave?
No, there's no snow.
Good.
It's just none around our area. There won't be any snow.
Good deal, because I got to drive tomorrow. This is Dave Dyer from Cosmic Comics in Belleville. Follow him on Twitter at Cosmic Comics Belleville.
Hey, Yule. Hi, Michael.
Yo.
And guest host tonight, we have Mr. Jason Hunt from Sci-Fi. I always try to say Jason Cook. That's another guy I know. But Mr. Jason Hunt from SciFi4Me TV, who runs a channel that does what we try to do, only professionally and like multiple times a day with several shows and different people hosting it. So it's like a real television production company going on there.
You sling that P word around a little generously there.
Well, we got a lot of things going on tonight, and one of the first things that I want to bring to everyone's attention first is this guy. Because it is a birthday for Mr. Dave, so he is going to be here for a little bit, and then he's going to duck out and do birthday things with the family. So while he's here,
thank you.
Well, candle.
Is that a
happy birthday?
Thank you, buddy. Long time no see.
And let's hope this doesn't set off the smoke alarms now.
Perfect. That's all right.
You can take the cake. We baked a cake in a cup.
Happy
Good.
birthday.
Well, enjoy it.
You get the cake. He gets the birthday. And
I get the birthday drink.
Yeah, there you go. I'm going to put this on the concrete because I'm pretty sure that won't set fire to anything.
How old are you, Dave?
Yule, you have to be in bed with me for me to answer that.
A lady never tells.
That's right. Or you at least have to get me drunker.
Well, happy birthday, man.
Thank you, buddy. I'm old enough to know better and young enough to not care.
There you
Put
go.
it that way.
That's the way to be.
When I hit 50, I told everybody that was just halfway through the first 100 years.
Yeah,
Positive about
you got that about right.
You're still very young.
I'm on the back slope. We'll put it that way.
I'm planning on
the first 100.
Yeah.
I'm simultaneously planning on living forever and dying at my job. So,
Well, what's your profession right now?
IT.
Oh, I thought you were in between jobs.
Well, that's why the cavern has become so echoey. Everything's packed up, and I will be making the trek tomorrow to live in a hotel in Bentonville, Arkansas, Michael.
Welcome back to Arkansas.
Well, damn, RJ, you never told me that. Wow.
Well, I was planning on working from here because they want me to work remote, not in the office, but I have to have an Arkansas address because they can't take out Illinois taxes. So I have to set up dual residency for a while.
Wow.
Well,
Congratulations.
You're closer today than you are to me by far.
Oh yeah. I'm only, I think it's about 4.5, 5 hours from here to Bentonville. I don't know. We'll find out. Folks in the chat, if you're watching, we are giving away tonight the digital code for Snowpiercer. So if you have, Voodoo, Movies Anywhere, that kind of thing, and you want this, this is season 1, the entire season. So it wouldn't be Movies Anywhere. It's just going to go to Voodoo or your Apple iTunes store. There's a link right down there in the description. It's the second link. It's the one right before the link to SciFi4Me TV's YouTube channel, and we hope that you'll all click on that and subscribe, get some great sci-fi content on a regular basis. Jason runs a hell of a channel over there.
Appreciate that.
So what is going on from your guys' perspective lately? I mean, what are you guys seeing? I know one thing you guys are seeing if you're retailing, and that's going to be the DC Marvel holding the line at $4.99.
Yeah. Wow. Well, but I don't know. The whole DC Future State is still doing really well for me. And those are what, $4.99 on up, depending what variant cover you get. But
Most
it seems like, what's that?
Most of my customers took a pass on it. They weren't interested. They just said, "When you start right back up again, I'll come back then."
I'm doing really well with it. The thing is, it looks like there's a lot more content to it than your average $3.99 book. So I guess that's how they're justifying their, $4.99 on up price tag.
Astronomical.
Yeah. But we all talked in the past, and none of us thought it was really going to do that much. And for me, it's doing really well. What about you, Yule? How's it doing?
It's doing well. The main titles, like the Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman, are selling through. There's a few other ones that I made the orders a little tighter, so things like Swamp Thing sold out immediately. Yeah,
same here. And
I'm happy to sell out in a situation. This comic storyline is only going to go for 2 months,
right?
And if I turn around and I don't have any left by the end of the 2 months, I'll be very happy.
Same here.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. I wonder when you're trying to build stock, in regular series, like let's say Spider-Man, even if I'm not really into it, I can, if I have like 2, 5, 10 copies left behind, I'm going to deal with that because it's Spider-Man. But when it's something that was like a mini series, and things like that, I'm not as into keeping them around if I can help it.
I wonder if the
selling back issue series I've ever had, talk about 40 years of experience, were the weekly comics. Things like the 52 and all those, anything DC was doing there for a few years where they're trying to do all these weekly comics that would run an entire year. Those never sold out of back issues.
Mm-hmm.
Jason,
what was that, Jason?
Oh, well, I was just wondering if I'm wondering if the interest in some of this Future State might be connected in any way with the publicity about the new Wonder Girl series that they're doing over at CW, because the network's interested in this. I wonder if there's anything to it, and maybe that's generating a little bit of peripheral interest in people who might not otherwise pay attention to it. I don't know.
I don't usually push the whole TV angle too much in the store, but I do know of the Yara Floor, being in CW or something like that.
Yeah.
And there's a few other characters that have been in like Red X, I think is the character in Teen Titans.
Right.
So this is like a first appearance for that character. So unless you're in the secondary market, and then whenever issue of Teen Titans Go he was in is expensive.
Because that's where he was. I mean, look at the first appearance of Harley Quinn in comics was not in the continuity; it was in the animated
section.
And that's the one that's really going for the big bucks.
I've got a high grade of that.
I had a high grade of that. I found out I had it. I sold that sucker.
Yeah, I mean it's good to sell, but that's always going to be her first appearance, right?
Yeah. And I'm surprised that that CW television is working off of a character that was only supposed to be around for these 2 months. I mean that's like making a television series out of one of the Armageddon 2001 annuals.
Yeah, but a character you can mine as a character. I mean, and not only that, but it's not created by the Moulton, right? That's his name.
William Moulton Marston.
Marston. Yeah, exactly. It's not owned by him, so there's a chance that Warner Brothers will be able to keep most of the money off of that character.
Well, and who's to say they're not setting up maybe not necessarily an ultimate line like Marvel did, but they may be going back to the alternate reality, the Elseworlds types of things. So she's probably going to stick around past the 2 months, and it could very well be that they see which ones sell. We keep going with those as their own thing, and maybe this is the beginning of, we've got the regular DC mainline, their version of 616, and now you get an ultimate version, and they can do whatever they want to with it, and now you can play with the characters and variations and changes and do whatever, and you still have the main characters that the diehard fans that sit there go, don't touch them, don't gender swap them, don't race swap them, don't do this, do that, do the other. Play with them all you want over here on this other universe, and then that way you got both.
Well, they had 52 worlds. They could have made technically 52 imprints if they wanted to flood the market. But
there's no. If they wouldn't have leaked all that information out beforehand, people wouldn't have known it was coming. At least until they wanted them to more, or maybe they did. It's kind of like dipping your toe in the pool. You got to jump in sometimes.
Yeah.
And if the public outrage wasn't there, I would have liked to have seen where this was going to go. It wasn't just supposed to be 2 months. It was more than an experiment. You can see the way these titles are just being thrown out. Oh, this is a one shot. This is a 2-parter that's spread up in all these other stories. And this was what they were going to do. And it might have been shocking at first, but I don't know what the old timers are like when it comes to how it used to be with like Barry Allen being the new Flash. Was there a revolt back then?
Not so much because of the way they did it. I mean, Barry sacrificed himself, and the torch was passed on to the very next character. Plus, the Flash.
People didn't like Wally being the Flash. I remember that. People were pissed.
Are you talking like immediately after Crisis when Mike Barron grabbed it?
Well, a lot of people didn't want to see Wally West as the Flash, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And, older guys, not me. I was like the age for bring Wally on. I've been reading him in Teen Titans. I'm ready for this. But,
it was time for Barry to go on. I mean, if you think about it, yes, Barry was the Flash all my life until he changed. So that's eternal. But Barry was the Flash from 1965 to 1985, which is a 20-year run. And that's about the same amount of time that Jay Garrick had before him. and then I don't know how long Wally got before they started changing Flashes around. Probably, I think it was another 20 years. So it's not like the Silver Age gave way to this sudden reboot every 20 years thing. They've been rebooting every 20 years since the inception of DC Comics.
Just as long as it's not the Trinity, right?
Well, and the other thing about Barry, though, I mean, they set up Barry's succession to Wally because, with Crisis, they're getting rid of all of these characters when they killed him off. Wally was a natural successor because he was already the sidekick. And it's just like Dick Grayson being Batman for a while with Damian. And when Barry came back, now you've got 2 Flashes, essentially. You don't have the rigmarole of having to juggle and replace and whatever like you see now.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like somebody found his costume crashing.
Well, the fact of the matter, that the internet was not what it was back then. What it is now, and now it's outrage, clickbait, and find whatever you want to find to complain about, whether it's legit or not. So
now I will say that when Green Lantern came back to being Hal Jordan, that was a boom, but they had some pretty good creative people on it, and had a good story, which that may have helped quite a bit. But sales just skyrocketed on Green Lantern when Hal came back.
Yeah, it sold really well. I mean, Jeff Johns, he was the guy that worked on he brought Barry back, he brought Hal back, and he had some really good art with it also.
Yeah, well, he did both of those with Ethan Van Sciver.
Oh yeah, and then the regular series had like Pacheco, and then even Reyes eventually, or Ivan Reyes, and then he just, it was like everything he was doing was just like all-star stuff. And That was a good time. Good time for Hal Jordan. Barry Allen.
Good time for comic sales too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. Give me some more green Sinestro work, Core, please.
Yeah, no doubt.
Check my memory on this. How much? What was the reaction? Do you guys remember with Hal Jordan becoming Parallax and becoming the villain? Was that
people were pissed?
That's
They
what
were
I
angry,
thinking.
yes.
And so
Nobody liked it.
Green Lantern Rebirth was probably popular as well because of the redemption for Hal. I mean, you had his time as the Spectre and all of that, but yeah, I seem to recall back in the day when people were not too happy about the whole Parallax storyline.
That's a nice way to put
That probably figured into it too.
There wasn't the internet, and they still managed to organize a protest movement through letter writing with Hal's Emerald Advancement Team, Heat, they called themselves, because they were wanting him back all the time. And of course, you know, the whole killing of, well, not the killing of, but the getting rid of Hal Jordan and bringing us Kyle Rayner is solely responsible for Women in Refrigerators and Gail Simone becoming a comic book writer.
Well, I don't know about solely, but there might be more to it than that.
If it hadn't happened there, it happened someplace else.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. I mean, butterfly effect and all that, right?
I mean, it was about the villain is what it was with Darth Vader. All of a sudden, turned from Anakin to being Darth. Because you had just a month before had an issue with Superman going, he's the noblest of us all. But then the next month, he got some bad news and just turned evil. There was no transition period there. It was like a snap of the fingers, and he was a bad guy, and people just didn't buy it.
Yeah. That was, I remember that. Yeah, his Coast City was gone. I'm like, dude, you live in the DC universe. Come back next week. It'll be rebuilt. And everything will be alive again.
Well, that's what drove him crazy, right?
Bad news. He goes psycho.
I dug it. I mean, and Rebirth was good because it made like sense of that nonsense that I didn't like back then. And the old timers were pissed about Hal Jordan going evil, though, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the thing about Jeff Johns, though. Jeff Johns is like, it's like he sat down in a closet somewhere and read every DC comic from day one and said, they didn't do anything with this, they didn't do anything with this, and they didn't do anything with this. Why is the ring powerless against yellow? Something to do with fear. Hey, yellow, fear. Bring that together. And it is like he did the thing with Parallax and the whole thing with Emerald, with Green Lantern Rebirth. And it's almost like John Broome sat up in his grave and says, yes, I meant to do that, and laid back down.
Do you think it's important for, like, a lot of the really great writers, you find out that when they get the job, they plumb the whole history of the character, that they, all the stuff they can get their hands on, so that they can write the awesome story that they're going to write, so they can take on the character. But now we're seeing a lot of people that, it doesn't feel like they have quite the library of knowledge of the characters that a Jeff Johns, Mark Waid, Kurt Busiek, guys like that are out there. But is it really important? I mean, we're seeing a lot of other media that seems to ignore some of the facts that are out there. So I see a lot of Star Trek stuff, and there's this one guy who makes a video that's always contradicting something that's being said in the new stuff. It's like Vulcan has no something or another, 2 moons or whatever the hell it is. and then there's like an old clip back in the Next Generation days, and it's totally saying that's exactly how it is.
That's a good question. I mean, does continuity matter, or does it? I mean, what do your customers say, Dave? Is it, do they talk about continuity changes?
Oh yeah, and I'm one of the ones who bitches about the whole Star Trek continuity problems with Discovery compared to all the other shows. No, continuity, I think, is still, well, case in point, where Disney announced that Mandalorian is going to become the bridge to gap all the films except for the new trilogy, and the new trilogy is just a multi-universe storyline that is not supposed to be related to the previous films. The Mandalorian is going to become that bridge. Yeah, continuity is extremely important, and look, it's important in comics too. You can't just keep yelling and saying, "Well, it was I'm sorry you didn't like that. We meant it as an alternate story." You got to come out in the beginning and say it's an alternate story then. And that's the same thing with these shows and these movies. Disney knew they had disasters on hand with the 3 new trilogies. They knew that people were going to bitch and moan about it. Nobody liked it. Those people who did were just because it had the name Star Wars. Yeah. Mandalorian put the train right back on the track and did what it was supposed to do. So yeah, continuity is important in all factions. So
well, I think part of the thing with all of those rumors about what's going to happen with the sequel and the alternate realities and the other timelines and all of that, you have this idea that in the Ahsoka series, maybe we'll see the Veil of the Force and we'll have some sort of a thing there that sets that up.
Right.
The problem that I have with all of that is that the sequel trilogy still exists. And really, without recasting Luke, Han, and Leia, you don't get to redo the sequels. And at this point, why? Because they're already done. They're already a fixed point in time, to use a Doctor Who phrase, and we're kind of stuck with them, whether anybody likes them or not.
Right.
There and so they're canon. Well, it doesn't have to make sense. It's just that's where the trajectory is going to go, and a lot of people are upset because Favreau confirms we're going down the road to Jake Skywalker. It's like, well, he's kind of stuck too, really, because right now he's not in charge of Lucasfilm. He may be in charge of Mandalorian and that particular little pocket of the universe, but he's still got to deal with Kathleen Kennedy and Iger and Chapek and whoever else. If they get to a situation where he's like Feige, with Alan Horn, where he's like, I'm not even going to deal with the story group. I'm just dealing with Disney. If Favreau gets to a point where he's got that kind of clout, then who knows where the thing could go. But,
right.
given that the Mandalorian, there's 25 years between the Mandalorian and Force Awakens, it could go anywhere. And there's nothing that says that story ever has to go back toward that. It could go toward some other part of the galaxy, and we never even have to even mention the sequel trilogy.
And I think that's what they want to do. Yeah, I think it's a smart thing. The quicker you can distance yourself from that, from the trilogy, and it's the same thing with Star Trek Discovery, because they're doing the same thing where they are so lost as to how to get back on track that they're hoping that the next show that they do, which is the whole Captain Pike, will get them back on track. And this is what happens when you work outside of what has been created before. When you start making shit up just to try to be different and hip and cool and bring in all these different storylines, you don't become canon anymore. And then term canon, and I find myself using it, and I hate that term. But if we're going to hold Star Wars and Empire and Return and OG Star Trek and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine and Voyager and then the films to any form of arc that has been set up for us, then we can't have things like the new trilogy of Star Wars films or Star Trek Discovery, because it just screws everything to the pooch.
Yeah, Star Wars had a lot of novels, and I believe that Lucasfilm tight rein over what they could and could not.
And Dark Horse Comics too.
Well, Star Trek did too. Star Trek had all
Star Trek did too, right?
Pocketbooks was at least one title a month. At some point they were doing 3 or 4 a month, because they had Next Generation and original series and DS.
Yeah. But I heard somebody say before that with Star Trek, if it didn't happen on screen, it wasn't canon.
That's
generally
me.
That was the case. Yeah. Roddenberry had always considered the books to not be canon, and we had heard.
I agree with that.
Lucas. Yeah, we'd heard that about Lucas for the Star Wars book. Although Lucasfilm did monitor everything that was going on in the EU, but I don't know that there was as much. I mean, certainly nobody doing the movies felt beholden to the books like we're trying to do now.
Well, not
right.
Not yeah.
Well, and the thing is, too, guys, is I don't read. I read books, and I've read some of the Star Trek books, and I've read some of the Star Wars books, but I don't follow every flipping book that comes out, nor do I follow all the animated shows as well. So I depend on the movies to do one thing, and that's entertain me. And I depend on the movies to be able to follow the movies from A, B, C, D to get my story. When you start bringing in elements from books and comics and animation, then you start really screwing with the movie continuity. And then I stand there scratching my head.
Yeah, I think it's one thing to say, hey, we had a book where we fought the Empire on this planet, and the planet was decimated, and then you see that planet in a film. That's say, well, that was a story about a battle that didn't happen. It's a completely other thing when you have Han and Leia have children who grow up and get trained and get their own books and become an intrinsic part of the universe. And then the movie comes out like, oh yeah, that didn't happen. That's not like a side plot that we're ignoring. That's continuity going forward.
Well, they came out and said they were ignoring it. And what it sounded like really is that we're ignoring everything we want until we want to use it.
Well, yeah. And then here guys,
I mean,
the new Star Wars.
But they're kind of stuck, though, because if you've got 30 years of continuity in the books, and for good or ill, some of those books aged better than others, Crystal Star. But there is so much to that. And we saw this with Solo, because at the end of Solo, when Darth Maul shows back up, everybody in the theater sitting there going, wait a minute, I thought it was dead. And so now Disney has made the mistake of saying that it's all connected: books, comics, art, animation,
and everything, because apparently Darth Maul was in the Clone Wars. Well, yeah. I don't fucking watch that.
He had a fantastic arc. But the problem is, if you go into The Force Awakens expecting people to know 30 years of history in the extended universe, then you're just as stuck. So
my question was, what happened to the? How come there? I was like, all of a sudden we have a, and I forget the character's name, but he was a black stormtrooper, and I'm like, wait a minute, I thought they were all clones. And then somebody chimed in at me, well, in the Clone Wars, they were all destroyed. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, I haven't watched Clone Wars. So now, I'm trying to figure that. I'm like, that's not fair as a moviegoer.
Well, that's the problem with continuity, huh?
I don't think they were clones. I don't think they were clones even in the first Star Wars movie. In A New Hope, they weren't clones. So, but it was never established one way or the other, except maybe a throwaway line at some point somewhere. So it didn't become a big thing.
Yeah.
Until okay, they're not clones anymore. Okay, so they started recruiting.
I thought they could have.
But it was such a huge storyline. Why wouldn't you talk about that? That's what drives me nuts about bad writing. Is let's talk about that. You can't just brush over it. Oh, well, they're not clones anymore. Well, why aren't they not clones anymore? They had a whole flipping movie about clones, in the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
So it's like, man.
I think they attacked, didn't they?
I didn't see that movie.
Well, and there's still time between Revenge of the Sith and Rogue One. There's still time for them to do a throwaway movie that would explain all of that.
Or a throwaway series.
Well, because who knows? Maybe that's what Bad Batch is going to be. Because we have the Bad Batch that takes place after Clone Wars, and that's going to be a set of clones. But that could give us some of that storyline where, it's the beginning of the Empire. Now maybe we're not using clones so much because Order 66, a lot of them died. and now we have to find new ones, and maybe the facility at Camino doesn't work anymore, or maybe they decided we're not going to have anything to do with this. I mean, they could set up all sorts of things in Bad Batch and start to explain that a little bit.
We turned this into an episode of Salacious Crumbs on the fly, didn't we?
Oh well, wait, Jason. What are the different shows that you have? Because like I turn around and it's something else going on all the time.
Do I?
You guys talking about like CW shows and what? I'm trying to chill for you.
And we were talking about the Wild Stars, and we were missing a cover on that Kursova Kickstarter. They finally got it up. I don't know if you have a way to kind of pop that up there or not, but they finally got that thing going. And
they got
a Star Wars story to kind of connect with it all. I've been publishing these Wild Stars books and comics for nearly 40 years now. And since, I've been writing since the early 70s. And I remember like in 77, I was working on another Wild Stars novel called Wild Stars Rising. And looking at the Star Log and just talking about this upcoming show, upcoming movies and science fiction. One of them was Damnation Alley, based on Roger Zalaski's book, starring George Papard and the guy from Dirk Bogarde from Battlestar Galactica. That movie's going to be a hit. And there was another little note about this other one. George Lucas is doing a thing called Star Wars. Like, well, that's a little similar to my Wild Stars, but hey, Star Wars, that ain't going to be around. People forget about that. This Damnation Alley is going to be the one that's going to be the hit. Boy, did that not work out.
Speaking of Damnation Alley, hey guys, can you see? Tell me if you can see it. Can you see my Damnation Alley poster?
Oh, hang on, let me give you a full screen here, Dave.
Yeah, give me a full screen there.
Oh yeah,
see it? That's an original. Original Damnation Alley.
What's in that diamond box?
Comic books. What else would be in there?
I don't know. It's like a toy box or something.
No, that's a collection I bought.
Back will be better than our setback.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Our comeback will be better than the setback. Yeah.
Yeah. Great job, Diamond.
Different shows you have on your show, by the way, on your channel, by the way.
Me?
Yeah.
We've got 7 shows in production currently.
Wow.
We have our Saturday morning news program called Good Morning Multiverse. And we have actually, I know what I can do. Since I'm sending this out through OBS, I can tell you. All right, so Monday through Thursday we've got Live from the Bunker, which is our talk show, interviews mostly. And then we have on Monday night we have the H2O podcast, which is a talk show. And then on Tuesdays, we have Salacious Crumbs, which is our Star Wars news program.
There we go.
And then on Friday, we have the Star Wars discussion program, Ranker Pit.
How does that differ?
Because Salacious Crumbs is news, and this one is talk and opinion. We keep them short. So this is the round table. We just kick around whatever we're talking about. And then Saturday morning, we have Good Morning Multiverse, which is our news wrap up. These are all the headlines of the week. And
you do books and stuff too?
We do books, we do movies, we do television, we do some games. And then we've got horror with Foreign Bodies, talking about horror from outside the United States.
Nice. Good.
Tartar Sauce, which is our Doctor Who discussion. And I think that's it. We've got 3 others that are in on hiatus. I guess
no Star Trek stuff, huh?
Well,
or Godzilla.
We do have our Star Trek news show is called Tribble Bites.
Okay.
And the discussion roundtable is called Deep Space Mines. But the problem with that is that we were so bereft of Star Trek headlines, with everything not being in production and the Orville was just kind of sitting there. We didn't have enough material for a show. So, rather than do just a little 5-minute, well, here's what we know so far, then we've kind of put that on hiatus for now, and I'm hoping to bring it back. The last Deep Space Mines we did, we had Manny Cotto on.
Okay, yeah.
Time doing Enterprise, but I'm hoping to bring those back, and then we've got a comic book news show that I want to bring back. It's called Comic Con Carne.
Very cool.
Cool. This
Good.
is the Kickstarter that Michael Tierney is part of. This is the Kersova Magazine 5th Anniversary Edition. And look at this, the Atomic Paradigm by Michael Tierney right there on the cover. And these are his characters.
Yeah, that's the alternate cover done by Ginzelman that he had a little trouble turning it in, and he just turned it into just like yesterday. And so we had a chance to promote the project with that. They were so enthusiastic about the book. This is the 5th book of my Wall Star series that I've been doing for nearly 40 years, and he did 2 covers for it. So I thought that was quite a good backing for the project, and it's good art. And actually, those 2 scenes take place sequentially, which that's something that's been done on comics before, but usually not on books or magazines have sequential covers.
Rick, I'm going to put the link in the description here because I've got a question I'm hesitant to ask here, and this takes us back to our Star Wars discussion.
You always worry about a Star Wars conversation.
Misa needs to know Gungan Seahorse theory.
Well, all right.
Make this full screen.
This was something that came out. We had one of our contributors, Jay, out in California. He had this idea because they were talking about Ray being a Mary Sue.
See you, Dave. Happy birthday, man.
Happy birthday,
Thank you.
Dave.
Sorry, guys. I got to bail. So love you all.
Appreciate you.
Yep.
Happy birthday.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Happy
Nice to meet you,
Christmas.
Jay. All right. bud.
You too.
Sounds good.
So Jay is sharing with us his theory that with Anakin being gone so much on missions away from Coruscant, there are times when Padme gets a little lonely, and after a particular time,
Padme the Great?
with too much Jawa juice, she and Jar Jar had a little fling. Now, Gungans apparently have a gestation period of about 30 years, and the males carry the children. So the Gungan seahorse theory is that Rey is actually Ray Binks by way of Padme.
I like it. I like it. That's better than my family tree theory that I threw out there once. Because
I'm sure it's going to be a second time now.
Oh, yeah. Well, yes, of course it will be because it's, twins. The twins run in the Skywalker Jedi family.
Oh, yeah.
Luke and Leia were twins, and then Leia had twins. And I'm like, well, you know what happened? Anakin had a twin that we didn't find out about. And that twin gave birth through marriage to Han Solo, who then gave birth to, At any rate, it was either going to be Rey and Ben were cousins, although I think the more simpler aspect would have been had Leia and Han knew that that the twins were in danger and they needed to separate them, and Rey went one direction and was raised somewhere, and Ben went another direction with Luke and was raised, and just complete the cycle all over again, reunite them. But that drives the Reylos nuts to talk about that.
Well, and you stop and consider, though, because if the comic book is any indicator as to how Anakin was born, then Rey and Ben Solo actually are cousins.
Yes.
Sort of.
Although was
Distant
there
cousins.
genetic material involved, or was it just Palpatine saying midichlorians?
Yeah.
I thought Ben was his middle name. His first name was Guitar.
Oh, I tell you. Speaking of the Star Wars stuff and comic books, let me ask this: Yule and Michael. Let me ask the variant covers for High Republic. I saw Ethan mention something about the requirement that stores had to order 3,000 before they qualified for getting a variant cover. Was that just a number he was throwing out, or was there anything to that?
I have no idea. I don't even pay attention when they talk about them anymore. I just ignore the variants when they start at those levels like that. It's insane. I just don't even pay attention.
Yeah.
There have been times when I have upped my order because I'm right next to the number that they're asking for. Whether it's something that they're going to give me a bigger discount on, or I'm going to be able to qualify for the 1 in 50, 1 in 100, 2 in 200, whatever it is. But the one I think you may be thinking about is probably something like, in order to get like a store variant, and I don't even know what goes into that because I've never been ballsy. Anytime I do something, it always fails miserably. And, you probably have to do it a few times before it works out. But that is like a lot of comic books.
Yeah. Well, and when I saw him put that number out, I was like, surely it's not that high before you start getting qualified to order variants.
There's a local comic store that took advantage of the Black Panther and Oakland situation, and they had a store variant for a comic store in Oakland where the Black Panther story is, right? The movie. They did like 3 freaking printings. They made a shit ton of money off of that, I'm sure.
But theirs wasn't.
But me over in Berkeley, it probably wouldn't matter.
That's not really a variant where you got to get 1 out of 3,000. The store variant is, we'll give you a store variant, but you have to buy 3,000.
That's what I'm
that's what I'm thinking of. Is okay. All right. So that actually makes a little bit more sense than just order 3.
I'm not going to print off 5 of them for you.
I've seen 1 in 500 for sure. There have been incentives to get the, hey, we dug up this Jack Kirby scrawl on a piece of paper and we're going to blow it up and have someone ink it. Or maybe it's just a pencil 1 in 1,000 black and white. Who cares, But they've done that for sure. Bastards.
I want that. 500, but I wouldn't want to pay cover price. I'm like, well, sure. You buy the 500, I'll get that one, and you can buy that one to cover price too.
Well, think about this.
You let somebody do that.
You have a Fantastic Four special issue, right? You want to get everybody to buy it. Why wouldn't you take that Jack Kirby, no one's ever seen it before, picture of the Thing, and slam it on a cover for everybody to buy? I mean, everybody would be like, "Holy cow, this is the first Jack Kirby in a while."
Yeah,
Well, you're right. I did have one guy do it one time.
What was that?
I did have a guy buy all the copies that was required to get the variant. I was like, okay, we get the variant at cover price. But I only ever had one person do that.
I have a customer that does that. Anytime his specific book he wants, he's like, order me this. I'll buy them all just to make sure I get that cover. I don't upcharge it though.
That's faulty. I mean,
they can have it.
I mean, wasn't he like buying a 10-cent comic?
What was that?
The guy did at Michael's store. Wasn't that a 10-cent comic book that was coming out? Some promo.
Yeah.
So 500 of those is like, okay. 50
that's an easy buy.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, you can keep those 500 books.
They're worthless.
Of course they are. They make great kindling. So one of the other things there you go.
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, RJ.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I somehow ended up with a box full of Claremont XMen #1. I've got a whole stack of them. My ex-wife's father was a collector in trading cards, and he got into some of the stuff with the comic books, and somehow he ended up with a pile of these. I think I've got maybe 50 or 75 of them.
I believe it.
And like, okay, what do I do with this?
I tell you what, I did this for fun. I bought a person's collection, and they had probably like 10 or 15 X-Men #1s, the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont #1. And I started cleaning up in the back, looking in my X-Men section, and I noticed, oh, damn, I've got about 10 or 15 more of these. So rather than price them up at $5 and let them sit like I always do, I put them all out in a dump at the front of the counter at the register, and I priced them like it was 1980, whatever it was, 92 when it came out, and it was $1.50. And people bought it out of nostalgia. People bought it because they've never had it before. People just bought it because it was $1.50, and they thought it was funny to buy a comic at $1.50. But
I sold
I
those
sold
sets for
probably like 30 or
100,000.
40. So you can add those numbers onto the millions that sold.
I have thought, because we're going to launch, I think we're going to launch an Indiegogo in March to do a print edition magazine, kind of like in the old, like Starlog was in the old days. We're going to do something similar to that. And it just now strikes me that we could probably do a special X-Men cover tier, and you get our magazine and you'll get a copy of X-Men #1.
Only 50
I would do that.
And as a perk. I
would do that. If you got the first 75 purchasers are going to get a Jim Lee X-Men.
Yeah.
It's a #1 collector's item. I want the road
Rare.
cover.
I have the Jim Lee cover with Wolverine on the front.
Yes.
Yeah, that one.
How many Robin #1s did he have in his collection?
Those are expensive.
No way.
Guide, I
Volume
think.
one, volume 2.
Well, expensive. You know, the holograms, a lot of times they'll fall off and all that other junk. You know, are they still in the bag?
Remember,
I always
Robin had like the sliding animated picture. You had that was a hollow cover with a slip in it, and you had to move it up and
Right.
down.
That's how it was. It was ridiculous. Yeah. All those gimmicks, man. I love gimmicks.
Somebody talked about just this morning on Thinking Critical. Somebody was throwing it out there with Perch, a pop-up comic, with basically a Bendis book where you open it up and there's the artwork on the page, but all the word balloons spring up.
Okay. Pop-up books are a bane in the store for me personally.
Oh yeah, well they got to be made out of cardboard for one thing, but
yeah, man, they fall apart.
Page, you hear all the word balloons just kind of spring up at you because there's so many of them.
That is pretty funny. I'll give him that.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up here, because I've noticed a trend going on at Dynamite. I always get my dyes mixed up.
Dynamite. Yeah, what's that trend?
Dynamite's trying to be DC. I mean, first of all, we saw him do the whole zombie thing right there while DC's wrapping up Deceased, and now they're trying to get in on the infinite Earths thing, although they're calling it plural worlds. And what they're doing is they're uniting their Project Superpowers with disparate properties that they've licensed, like Vampirella and Red Sonja. So you've got the Project Superpowers teams, both being written by Dan Abnett, with a Red Sonja the superpowers and Vampirella the dark powers, and they're trying to make them be part of Project Superpowers.
Yeah, I read Vampirella Dark Powers, and I thought it was funny and good and very violent.
Yep.
And it worked well. I don't think I really want to buy into the whole Red Sonja thing.
Oh, look at that. You got Dynamite. That's the...
So that's your zombie one, like Deceased, like you said. Don't forget Marvel Zombies occurred. And it's all just... and that was a playoff of Walking Dead, which was also written by Kirkman, though, at least. But
there's also a zombie Star Wars novel.
Which one?
Oh, you'd have.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
It's zombie stormtroopers. It's got a busted stormtrooper helmet on the cover. I can't remember the name of it right.
Dude, I might just be shoehorning it in my head, but I think I know what you're talking about. That's interesting. But Red Sonja, I mean, that's more like Marvel also. Yeah, bringing Conan into Avengers, and I just don't buy it. I don't care,
because we've seen Conan in Avengers, and it just doesn't really work.
People like it. I think it's who they surround him with. Like, I have a core group of people that enjoy it, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I liked the what if Conan fought Wolverine.
Sure.
I liked the what if Conan fell into the Marvel Universe. That was years ago. But to actually say, hey, he is Robert E. Howard's character now is part of our continuity until we, sell the license to somebody else.
Well,
I'm gonna have to pull out those books pretty quick on my Robert E. Howard chronology that I got coming up. We have to talk all about that.
But now Kulan Gath has been a villain in X-Men and Avengers, and he's a villain of Conan's, if I'm not mistaken, or at least in the comic books, right, Michael?
Falthamon, yeah.
Yeah, and so there has been a connection. There was a Marvel team up where Mary Jane had this necklace, and she became Red Sonja.
Yep, remember that.
And,
I remember that.
That's a lot of mixing of Howard, mythology, but that's, hey, I just can't wait for Predator versus Conan personally.
Oh, it's coming. And it'll be aliens because they're already coming into the Marvel universe.
I know they're going to do aliens, but it's Predator Conan. It's the important one. I want everybody to get that. I want the collective conscious of the world in comics to Conan, Predator. This is important for everybody in the world.
The new Alien, the Alien TV series that they're working on for FX, I'm hearing is going to take place in a different time period. They're going to start jumping around. That did I hear 1800s? I don't think that's right. But if you go that route, and if the Predators and the aliens are in the same established universe as we've seen, then you could do aliens and Predators in the time of Conan the Barbarian, and it would still be it would be in continuity.
If I have to have one to get the other, I'm okay. It's just the Arnold Schwarzenegger aspect of it is just too beautiful.
Well, of course. Yeah. And you had Arnold to play both parts.
No, I'll keep it strictly in comic books or some other actor type situation. But Arnold, it's old men punching just doesn't really work for me in comic or in movies. You've seen it in Indiana Jones and stuff like that. He couldn't even punch a bag.
Marvel team up number 79. Cease your inane grunt, man spider. I know what I'm doing. I'm a warrior. If I'm to die, I'll make sure it's with a sword in my hand.
That's awesome. Awesome.
I've had this image, and I don't know if I dreamed it up or what, but it hasn't left my head for several days now. And not being an artist, it's very frustrating. But it's this whole Star Trek business, where they keep rebooting it and having different aliens on board. I'm like, your aliens are always a human of a different color for the most part, unless you have the animated series, in which case, Lou Scheimer was able to really play with animation and give you aliens. And right popped into my head was the bridge of the Enterprise with a xenomorph and a predator, and I can't remember what the other one was now, but all wearing Starfleet uniforms over their carapaces and everything. Like, well, why not? At some point, maybe they'll all peace out.
You got to throw.
Well, at least a Borg, right? Or do they have they done that already?
7 of 9.
Is that a real Borg?
She was.
Was real
I'm sorry, I don't know.
She was recovered.
Was 7 of 9 on Deep Space Nine?
Oh no, she was on.
She was on Voyager.
Voyager.
Yeah.
And then she
was that the one with Captain Janeway?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to go way back in time to Dallas days in the 70s. But she's had a good long career.
I'm still waiting also for them to do a Star Trek story where it explains, even if it's just because of a fashion trend with the Gen Xers of the far future, why they would go from touch screens and smart glass back to toggles and switches and dials, which is, of course, what they used in the original 5-year mission. Just to explain why the technology was that way.
Feeble-minded people like buttons and dials and stuff.
Yeah. But, just to try to explain away what was going on there. Something else that happened this week, not really related to comic books, but related to the video game industry, which, comic books are usually gamers. Did you buy any stock this week?
I've been waiting to talk about this.
GameStop.
Yeah, GameStop and AMC.
And BlackBerry. And
BlackBerry.
Dogecoin. Is that how they're pronouncing it?
I don't know. Doggy coin. I don't know. But yeah, it all spiked up.
And I also hear that there was rumblings about Blockbuster, the holding company that has Blockbuster liquidation. Somebody was talking about them being on the list as well.
Well, I saw a tweet from Blockbuster saying, "Hey, over here."
Yeah.
Raise our stock price up.
By the way, Fantastic Comics over here.
Well, wouldn't that be something though? If you had these companies that are in physical media suddenly have a resurgence because of all of the blowback on all of the digital stuff, because digital rights management and it's a digital copy, but you don't get to keep it. And what happens because Robert Meyer Burnett has been really, he's got a new show over there talking about, the physical media. And I've seen a lot of online chatter about how important it is to buy the discs, buy the records, buy the DVDs, buy the Blu-rays, because a digital file will disappear.
Yeah.
Especially what you got to do is just declare bankruptcy or say, hey, we're shutting down. And if it doesn't, where's my ultraviolet stuff?
Well, even that, or they decide that you're persona non grata because of whatever fill in the blank reason checkbox, and we're going to cancel your account because we don't like how you look, or we don't like how you vote, or we don't like what you said online, and you're gone.
We don't like that you bought our stock.
Well, they did that to Jeremy Hambly for Magic the Gathering when he brought up all that stuff about the judges having
criminal backgrounds,
bad people in the judges community. They banned him and canceled everything, and all of his digital holdings, all of his digital material that he bought
with real money.
Now it's gone. He doesn't get it back.
Yeah, that's not cool. I'm very much a physical media guy. By the way, physical media, this is what I've been watching, and we're giving away the digital that we were just talking about for season 1. If you want that, the entry link is right down there in the description. Click on that, and we'll give it away before the end of the show, live to whoever wins it.
Cool.
Snowpiercer, season 1.
Mrs. Boss is not eligible.
Yeah, actually, 2 weeks ago we did this with a joke reaction, and Keith Gleason was our special guest host, and his wife won.
Yeah, no, I'm in the show. Mrs. Boss should not be eligible, so I'll throw that out there.
We'll see. If the last person's name is Hunt, I'll just be like, it goes to a Mindy somebody. I can't feel that on the show.
That was a connection.
Oh man, but yeah, the stock thing is really.
It's crazy.
Marvel doesn't have stock anymore. Can you imagine if Marvel was still on the open market?
Right.
I bought Marvel right before they filed bankruptcy the first time.
They wouldn't. Well, some of them bought them though. I don't know how that works. We just got to start figuring out what companies are like the worst that are out there, other than the ones, you just have to figure out who sucks, right? Like Barnes and Noble really is not going to be a company in the future, right? I mean,
they got bought by an outfit out of the UK and are going through restructuring and reorganizing. And I think they're going to survive. But if you're looking at somebody like Walden Books or B. Dalton back in those days, because B. Dalton, I think, was bought by Borders, and Borders is gone.
Right.
So yeah, you look at something like that where you have a store that's just on the cusp of not doing great. That would be the ones to look at. But apparently, this one, with GameStop, the whole thing was an accident. Somebody on Reddit looked at what was going on with, I think, what was it, Marvin account, Melvin, Marvin, whatever that hedge fund was, and said, hey, these guys have shorted GameStop by a lot. Somebody tipped to it and they said, wouldn't it be cool if And that's where the whole thing got started. Is well, let's just buy it all up and do a run on the stock and put these guys in a vice grip.
Yeah, and I had to. It took me a while to figure out shorts again. I used to play the Hollywood Stock Exchange, and I knew it then. But I explained it with comic books because our audience is comic book people. If, for instance, if I knew that, let's say Yule, I'm over at your house, and you've got a Walking Dead #1 sitting there, mint condition. And I said, Yule, I haven't read that. Would you let me borrow that and I'll bring it back, next week? And you're stupid enough to let me do it. And I'm borrowing it because I know that tomorrow in the news, some guy out of Venezuela is announcing that, hey, I was in a bar with Robert Kirkman and I told him this idea and he stole it from me. And Robert Kirkman's going to look really, really bad in the media tomorrow, and the value on that thing's going to plummet. But I can sell it on eBay to buy it right now for $100. So that's my plan: is I borrow your book and I sell it on eBay for $100, and I'm like, tomorrow that book's going to be worth $3. I'll buy it back, give Yule his copy back, and I'll have made $97. That's the idea of a short. And what happens instead here is, I borrowed your book, I sold it on eBay for $100, and the guy from Argentina comes on the news and says, oh, I forgot that I sold him that. Not only that, but that one character who dies on the very last page, he's actually a very important character, and we're going to start him a whole new series here, and that book now shoots up to $1,000, and I've got to spend $1,000 to get your book back, to give it back to you, and I've lost $900.
You're fucked.
So
And
don't
that's
let me borrow your book.
what's happening. They have lost, I've read, I think, $70 billion in capital over all of this.
There was a lot of people making fun of the people that were protesting Wall Street a bunch of years ago, but some of them might have paid attention. And if they did, those guys are going to be in trouble in the future.
They're occupying Wall Street from the inside now.
Well, that's the only way, because everybody was really making fun of them, and rightfully so. What are you going to do? Stink up the joint? You don't know dick about anything. Well, either they lucked their way into it, or these aren't those people. But even still, now those people have an in.
It's like in comics. You don't like our comics? Go make your own. Okay. So they did.
Kickstarter.
I guess real quick. I used to have all the original Marvel stock reports. But the first time they had the stock offering, I bought a lot of that stock and I was watching real close. And it was mind blowing to me about how much they gamed and played the people who bought their stock, because all of a sudden the stock it's going down because according to their accurate reports, all of a sudden they're losing millions of dollars all the time in licensing. Now licensing should be pure gravy, but what was happening is they were letting Paramount had both leverage ownership over both Marvel and Toy Biz. And so Toy Biz was getting ready, could make all the action figures they wanted, didn't pay any licensing fees to Marvel, but if anything was owed to an actor or something for using their license, Marvel was paying that for Toy Biz or whoever it was. So they were losing money and on licensing, which should have been pure gravy. And then when they finally go bankrupt, and Paramount lost the leverage control over both companies, and then Toy Biz buys Marvel with the money that was basically funneled to them out of the company. And so I remember as a stockholder, I'm looking at this, going, man, this is just blatant theft. And then they're like, okay, well, you can buy new Marvel shares, and we'll let you sell your old shares, if you can buy the new ones at a price higher than if you just bought them off the open market. I'm like, wow, you guys want to double screw me over. So I've never bought stock again after that.
Yeah, I remember that, because I bought the Marvel stock solely so that I could get the annual report, because Marvel's annual report was like a comic book, and it was a collectible thing.
Oh, awesome!
So the annual reports were they were panels and color and.
Really, I'm interested in at least looking at it when you can hold it up.
I never got one, because as soon as I bought it, they filed bankruptcy. I got several of them, and to me it was just insane to look at. Like, well, this is just
obviously there's malfeasance going on here. They can't lose millions of dollars in licensing. Licensing is pure gravy to them. And the more I research, the more I was like, yeah, the stock market's a shell game, and we got no chance because they're squeezing the cup like, oh, nope, it's not under there.
Yep. Well, I bought my first stock purchase. So I bought 4 shares of Musicland, and it went up 4 times in value. And I'm like, this is easy. So I sold my Musicland, and in succession, I bought within the same year, I bought Marvel, LA Gear, and Levitt's Furniture. And at which point I realized that I could make more money calling up CEOs and saying, I'm thinking about buying your stock. How much will you pay me not to?
Yeah.
Because every time I bought a stock, they went into bankruptcy.
It's an insider's game. Yeah.
That's just like me. Anytime I make that plunge on that alternate cover.
Well, and that's another.
You said how you buy them. If you were just like 1 or 2 away, I thought you quit doing that. I was like, nah, I'm probably not going to get that much money back out of it because those alternates don't always sell where it covers.
Well, and that was part of the problem with the 90s is all the speculation, all these number ones and all these variants and whatever, and we're going to buy these up because in 10 years they're going to have all this value, and then the bottom falls out, and now you're holding on to all of these comics like 75 XMen number ones, and you can't do anything with them
except give them away.
Boy,
one time I had a guy blowing through town, never saw this guy before, never saw him again. Just somebody traveled through town, going, "Yeah, I've got all these number one comics I bought back in the '90s. I want to cash them in." I'm like, dude, those are worthless. I sell them in my quarter bin. He goes, "Well, you can't give me at least cover price on every one of them." I'm like, not to put them in a quarter bin. Sorry, and he was mad, and angry about it. But,
dude, I hear Darkhawk number one's a big deal. So if you have any Darkhawk number one, hold on to those. Don't put them out for cheap.
Who's the guy who runs Mile High Comics?
Oh, Chuck Krasinski.
Yeah, I think it was him. Somebody had they had the storage unit that got broken into.
Oh yeah,
supposed to be a secure storage unit. Yeah, that was horrible. I mean, but it was like they just broke into it and just kind of like raved in it and sat in there and drank beer and stuff. They didn't steal from it, but the boxes were knocked over and wet, and he was a storage unit full of 90s comic books that he had put in there to vent or to age.
Age.
Some of them have.
Yeah.
No, seriously, some of them have. You should take a look at what an Amazing Spider-Man 300 goes for. I mean, it's ridiculous.
That book does crazy. I put a book that somebody brought in, completely wadded up, like somebody wrinkled the cover all up into a ball, then tried to flatten it back out. I was like, I can only sell this in a store like $5. I'm just going to put it on eBay and see what happens. Got $168 out of that piece of trash.
That's a McFarlane cover, right?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's the one with the 300 all over it that they've reused and reused for everything.
I
did a thing with Tomb of Dracula number 10. Something spilled all over the covers, like $5 all I'd sell for the store. I'll put it on eBay, see what happens. Got $100 on that one. I mean, it's crazy sometimes what people will pay. As a store owner, I felt guilty to even ask a fraction of those prices. Put them on eBay, people bid what they want to bid, and you're like, okay, well that's a different story. I'll take the money.
It does feel like a different story, doesn't it? If you're stupid enough to bid this up, that's your fault.
Exactly.
Well, and I was talking to Dave McDonald last year when we did a big Starlog tribute special, and I did an interview with him. He was the managing editor for Starlog for so long, and they ran into an issue one time. One of the reasons why you can't find Starlogs very much is because the warehouse had a fire, and all of the extra copies that they had that they hadn't sold were all stored in this warehouse that burned down. I mean, the damage to it was such that I don't think they could recover any of it. So that's one of the reasons why you look around and you see a Starlog magazine going for $7,500, $150, $200. It's because those are the only ones that there are left.
Oh, I got to dig my Starlogs up.
I
got a few.
I still got mine. I don't have a lot of them, but I've got a few, and they're all bagged and bordered now. I'm not doing anything. I'm not going to let anything happen to these.
You know, Jason, you were talking about doing a
When
print magazine.
all the Eries and Creepies used to be really valuable. And then somebody found a warehouse load of them and dumped them on the market, drove the price down for quite a while. Presented covers, all that good stuff. And it's adjusted since then. The market has absorbed them now.
Yeah.
Those Eerie.
A paperback
Eerie and
version.
Really.
Oh, I love the Eries and the Creepies. I love the Rook.
Was it Warren? That's all Warren?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were the ones who did Vampirella originally, back when she was like really good.
I had my first published story in an old Erie magazine
Oh, really?
back in 1972. Still in school. Yeah.
I've got to look that up.
So what were you saying, RJ?
Well, Jason was talking about starting up a physical copy science fiction magazine.
Mhm.
Have you looked into finding out Starlog's gone? I mean, can you get the license for the title?
Starlog's actually not gone.
Oh, well, then never mind.
There is a story. I have actually had conversations with people back when the Starlog group got sold to a guy in New York, and he bought it strictly to have the Fangoria title. And they had the Fangoria website for the longest time, and things kind of ran into the ground and they went bankrupt. And then Cinestate out of Dallas bought them. And they're the ones that brought Fangoria back as the quarterly print magazine that you've got now.
Yeah.
And Cinestate also is a film production company, the studio and the whatever. And then they had that whatever happened with one of their directors getting accused of sexual harassment or whatnot and stuff. And then the people that were associated with Fangoria that said, we don't want to be owned by Cinestate anymore. We're all taking a hike. So now they have new owners out of California somewhere. And new owners have a plan to not only continue Fangoria as a print magazine and also start doing Fangoria films, but I've also seen mention of digital editions of Gorezone and Starlog in the near future. So the word on the street that I've heard is that Starlog and Gorezone are going to be coming back in some way, shape, or form, maybe not this year, but soon. But I can't get anybody to officially say one way or the other what the plan is, because the last time I talked to anybody about it, they were sitting there saying, okay, the focus right now is Fangoria, but this is back before Cinestate sold them. So I haven't had a chance to catch up with anybody yet. But the original plan was get Fangoria up and running, see how that does. And Starlog had been discussed at that point. So at somewhere in the back and forth in the last 3 or 4 years, I'm sure that there has been a conversation about bringing Starlog back as a print magazine the same way they did Fangoria.
That would make sense. Herrenberg's giving us the deets on Vampirella. Started in '69 with their own black and white at Warren. Sister titles at the time were Creepy and Eerie. And for some reason, I seem to remember images of Vampirella with Cousin Creepy and Uncle Eerie talking to each other like they were related. And what do you got here, Michael? This is the Eerie magazine?
Yeah, that's the one with my first published story. I was in junior high, and I was trying to sell them a short story that I'd written. And so I sent it in to them, and they said, oh, thank you for submission. We're going to run it in the fan pages. And it didn't come out till like 1972 in this issue. And I was like, well, I wasn't wanting to give it to you. I was trying to sell it to you, you know how it is with kids.
Spec.
Send them an invoice.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's been reprinted in hardcover by Dark Horse, too. I was like, I never gave anybody the rights on that story.
Come on, Dark Horse. You got a bitch at Dark Horse and they'll cave. Like,
but actually, it's really it's actually my first Wild Stars story. I just wasn't using the Wild Stars term at that time. And it's actually the last story of my Wild Stars arc. So I published the last story of my Wild Stars in Erie, and now I'm just doing all the stories that went ahead of
what
me.
number is that, Michael?
It is number 37.
All right, I'm gonna look that up.
Eerie number 37, folks. Get it, and then you can probably send it in a self-addressed stamped envelope to Michael Tierney, and he'll sign it and send it back to you.
That's one of the things that's one of the things McDonald complains about, is the fact that somebody took all of the Starlog run and scanned them and put them over there at the Internet Archive.
Ooh.
Without permission. Nobody knows who did it. and
Oh, wow.
nobody got permission to do it. So, if they were to ever do any kind of a revival of Starlog or print back issues or whatever, the fact that they're out there in the archive, over at archive.org or something like that for free, kind of eliminates everything. He's like, it's not so much the fact that it's there, it's the fact that it's there without permission and nobody got paid for it. Because you've got all of these contributors now, their work is out there and they're not getting any kind of compensation for, reprint rights or electronic rights or anything like that. I mean,
Right.
274 issues. Yeah.
That's a lot of writing that got scanned and put in there. Yeah, because when the contracts were signed, no one thought about electronic rights. Back in the early days of DVD, I would be buying, these DVD sets of television shows I loved, like Greatest American Hero, or even something more recent like Birds of Prey, which was a WB series. Almost said CW, but that's what it was. But then you listen to it, you watch it. Married with Children was another one, because they didn't think about the home market when they made these television shows and the contracts for the music in them. They had to redo all the music in all these shows. So Frank Sinatra does not sing the opening for Married with Children, with Love and Marriage. And the theme song for Birds of Prey was, Amy Allen's song was taken off of there. They replaced, the Tattoo and the Tori Amos songs from the season finale. It was just like, it ruined the whole experience for me.
Well, that's why you see like when they did the Batman movie, the Michael Keaton one, they had the Prince music because he was owned by Warner Brothers basically at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, remember the 80s, the actors strike, and it was all because of like VCRs and VHS tapes.
Right.
And like, all these people are going to be watching it at home and you're going to be making money off of it. I mean, I'm not trying to begrudge anybody from like trying to get their money. When you talk about the corporations, and we were just talking about
Prey, Warner Brothers already owned the music.
That's weird. Maybe contracts have something to do with that, I guess.
Yeah. Well, the way all of that worked with ownerships, as I understand it, the copyright and the publishing rights and all of these different things, you have different companies, and it's part of that whole Hollywood accounting system where nobody ever makes any money. There's no profit, because if Warner Brothers Pictures makes the show, Warner Brothers Television makes the show, and they're using characters from Warner Brothers Pictures, and they've got music that's owned by Warner Tamberlane. All of these different divisions are separate and apart, but they're really owned by the same company, but they're different line items on the corporate structure. And so they're not the same. And so the legal entities, one owns something and the other owns another thing, and then you get into this big mess of paperwork as to who's going to be able to do what. That's one of the problems with using, that Walter Hamada talked about when he was doing it at DC Fandom, when he said, we're getting rid of all of that. It's now one big shared universe, and any character can show up anywhere, because Batman was tied up in the movies for so long. That's why we got Smallville instead of a Batman story. Because these characters would be sitting in development for years, and they'd be locked up over on the movie side, and the people over in the television division couldn't touch them.
Yeah, I talked with Jeff Loeb about that when one of the seasons of Smallville, way back when I worked for another website doing interviews, and he was like, "Yeah, it's a totally different company." But as to the accounting, when I talked with Lou Scheimer about Ghostbusters, when he first heard that they were doing the movie Ghostbusters, he called him up and said, "Hey, we've done this." And he said, "Yeah," and they were like, "Yeah, but it's Saturday morning cartoon." He's like, "No, live action." They're like, "Uh-oh." And they sat down and they ironed out, rights and purchases, and they said, "Okay, well, you'll be entitled to, such a percentage of the profits because you did a live action with the Ghostbusters prior to that."
Profit.
And he said, "It's funny, that movie never made any money."
Yeah.
Yeah, you never contract for the net. You go for the gross.
Yeah. A lot of movies didn't make any money.
Yeah.
You know, we're talking about rights and stuff like that. I do a wrestling show. I'm not here to plug that. It's called the Wrestling Council. It's on Talking Balls Network with a W. Anyway, it doesn't matter. The important thing is they did this tribute show, and at the end, to honor the person they're tributing who died, they did Tom Waits' Old 55, as a nice musical montage, not one of those songs you normally hear. But the owner of the company made sure to buy that song in perpetuity so that if ever they're going to use that again in this situation, they'd be allowed to do that. And I think that's pretty sweet. And so it's not impossible for these companies to make a deal. They're just cheap.
You got to lock up your rights. It's like the title is Atomic Paradigm, and I realized how atomic is just a word nobody was using. So I went out, I went ahead and locked up the atomic.com website, and I even created just this last week, created a spoof website as if it's Atomic Corporation talking about these Wild Stars comics using their name and identities. So you look for atomic.com, you'll find a big plug from a Wild Stars comic, written as a spoof of like it's a real corporation talking about, hey, these guys are talking about us, but we want to see what they got to say.
Well, that's like there's a video game. I think is it Resident Evil? Jason, you might know this one here, but there's the Umbrella Company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sure looks like the Wuhan emblem. Yeah.
Yeah. And there really is an umbrella company that really uses the logo for the umbrella company in the game, but they make weapons. They make ammunition.
Yeah.
So it's like, really? Why? And it's I know this because there's a YouTuber who uses the umbrella company's logo for his face mask, that umbrella guy, and everyone's like, oh, Capcom should take him down for taking their image and their name. I'm like, if Capcom makes a move like that, the umbrella company is probably going to take Capcom down for doing the same thing. So they probably just want to be quiet and stay under the radar as much as they can.
Well, and we run into this ourselves here because YouTube being YouTube, left hand and right hand not knowing each other. We have a music license that we have paid for through a company called Storyblocks. And if you go over to storyblocks.com, you can pay for the license and get you stock footage, video, and it gets you music tracks and sound effects tracks and all that. So that's what we use on pretty much all of our stuff. And when we started up Good Morning Multiverse 2 years ago, we started getting copyright dings from this company called AdRev on behalf of a third party. And we're like, who are these guys? And they were claiming our theme song under a different name. The title of the track they were claiming was different from the title of the track we were using, but it was the same track. And I went, I don't know, probably a good 6 months round and round and round with AdRev, basically saying, we paid for this. We own this. We have the license for this. I sent them multiple copies of the PDF and said, okay, here it is. Here's the copy. It took me 6 months to get them to leave us alone. And then we rolled around into 2020 and it started again. And it's the same kind of thing. They had probably a good dozen copies of our license agreement at that point. And I called them out. I even reported them to the Better Business Bureau of Silicon Valley because their main office is in Los Angeles. And, blasted them on social media because it just gets down to harassment at that point.
Yeah, and they did that because they figured somebody's not going to bother with it. It's like, okay, well, it's not a strike. It's just a claim. I'm not going to worry about it. But, they're just scattergunning that stuff so that they can get a little piece of your money.
Yeah, I disputed it every single week. And then finally, it turns out Storyblocks has this thing where, and it took me forever to find it. I didn't even realize they had it until, one day I'm doing the dispute because Storyblocks, when you have the license, you can have them dispute the claim. Well, they have this thing now where you can connect your Storyblocks account to your YouTube channel. So now when I get the email that says a copyright claim has been placed on your video, I give it about half an hour and then the claim's released, because that now it's all automated.
Nice.
You know, ad rev will do what they do, and Storyblocks just automatically says, nope, we're covered, we're good, it's all fine. But it's
last December, I was doing some live streaming of Christmas movies, and I was going out to the Internet Archive for them. Well, not the Internet Archive itself, but the public domain movies website.
Yep.
And it was Santa Claus versus the Devil. And I was like, we're just going to sit here and play the movie and watch it, and I'll sit over here on the side and talk about it. It's an old movie, public domain stuff. And I got a copyright claim on the Facebook version of it from BMG because the theme song was Jingle Bells.
Yep.
And it's weird how Facebook will ding you sometimes, and then YouTube will, and they won't always get each other, you know?
They won't. But, you know, YouTube is like, YouTube's message is, if you feel this is an error, please file this. Facebook's was, you can dispute this, but if you dispute it and you lose, man, are you going to be up shit creek?
YouTube's kind of the same way, because if you lose a dispute on YouTube, that's got a heavy penalty to it too.
Well, I took my risk and I was like, look, here's the link to what we played. It's the official, public domain website. It says it's public domain. It's the government saying this, that it's public domain. They're collecting it all. And I submitted the link to them, and 3 days later it says BMG has dropped their claim. I was like, I don't think BMG's ever dropped a claim against anybody. So
I'm waiting until Wild Stars is public domain, and then I'm going crazy.
I've had my battles.
You better be quick, because Image will be on it like that.
That's like Hal Jordan and Jerry Ordway. Just like that.
They're just waiting to put Wild Star back out there. I'll fill you in on that later, Jason. There's history to that Image book.
I figured there usually is. Anytime there's any kind of a story, there's usually a long
one. Well, yeah. I mean, obviously there's a Wild Star and a Wild Star. There's only one of them. Only one of them in publication today.
Yep.
Crazy time.
He even wrote a book on the lawsuit.
kind of like Marvel Man, Miracle Man.
Kind of like, yeah. Look at this guy, man. I can't believe, like, look at the size of this book. I mean, this is like ridiculous. Part comic book, part novel, right?
Very cool.
Damn.
Together. And the new chapter's getting ready to come out in Kursova, being solicited for right now. And there's the new cover by Ginzelman. He's from Udon Studios.
Do I need to read previous Wild Stars to be able to understand the story in the Kursova?
Each story is standalone, but if you've read the previous one, you get more story because you'll know more what's going on. But each one, you can read it by itself.
All right. So continuity, not so important. Sometimes important.
There is continuity there.
Okay.
There's bigger overarching stories. I say you get a beginning, middle, and end in each story. You'll get a complete story.
Cool. I'm down. I'm going to go right now. So Kickstarter, Amazon.
Yeah.
Or I could go to your Wild Stars page, right?
Yeah, and I've got links on there.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I've actually got to send a note to, was it Alex over at Kursova? Because I want to put an ad in the mag. So I need to get it.
And I'm going to be buying Erie number 37. So, or 20.
Get it before it gets discovered.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody else is getting that one for me. I'm getting that.
Kickstarter's got 10 days to go. It's got a long way to hit goal. I'm worried for Alex on this one. They got a $7,000 goal. They're $2,300. I'd like it to hit goal because, of course, if it goes through Kickstarter, this is going to be Critical Blast Logistics' first fulfillment for delivery.
92 backers makes me think it was too cheap. Is that true?
Yeah, there's 92 backers on it. Then they needed a lot more backers than what they were getting.
Or it had to be more expensive. It's only $12.
Yeah.
How many pages? I mean, people when they're going on,
and they have
people when they're going online to buy comic books and stuff, they're usually willing to pay a lot of money.
There are comic books pages in these. This is the first issue with comics. It's got a story called Bad Axe by Paul Connor. And it's something that Alex actually bought my 50-cent bins going, hey, this is pretty good stuff from 1989. And the only problem was that they didn't have the original art anymore. He had all the rights, but he didn't have his original art. And this was a print of black and white on pulp paper. And it was just ink smudged all over the place. And so I did the digital registration for them on all the pages. They came out looking pretty good. The artist did a nice job of using black on black, which, like I said, doesn't do too well when you got pages facing each other and smudging against each other. But I got it cleaned up for them.
I'm telling you, 80s and 90s small press, like things that only had like 3,000 print run and stuff like that. That's some real. I mean, those people are gone. They don't work in comic books anymore.
Yeah.
So they did like 3, 5. Maybe you're lucky and they got 10 issues out. And then there's Michael like totally kicking ass and getting all this stuff done over the years. But I mean, you see a comic like this book called Escape Velocity, right? And it's like a black and white comic book. But look at the pages. These are crazy, and this is like a lost part of comic book art form that we're not getting back.
Yeah.
And
I like black and white art.
Yeah, man, I love black and white. I'm so back into black and white. I love it. I've been.
Wild Stars comic I did in '88. It was the first comic with full stamping on the cover, first comic with die cutting on the cover. As far as I know, it's the only comic ever with die cutting on the back cover. And not only did I write, pencil, letter, ink, I did the whole thing and printed it on my own printing press in my garage. And on top of that, I used a printer technique on this page where that mountain in the background, I faded it out throughout the print run. So that mountain is going to have a different, being solid or being faded, get misty as the print run goes along. So that made each individual comic into like an art print. Nothing like that's ever been done in comics before.
Can you give me one more page of that? That was a beautiful page, but I'd like to see one more.
Oh, you want to see some more work on the inside?
He's doing screen caps so he can sell them on eBay.
Yes.
Yeah, right. I'm telling you guys, man, look at that spaceship.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful.
We've got. I'm thinking 60 pages in our first attempt at stuff, and I'm thinking that we need to put some kind of comic type of thing in there, at least a page. So given the limits of what we're going to be able to do money wise, I imagine it'd probably do black and white. So maybe we should look at including some of that in ours.
Never be scared of black and white.
Oh, yeah. Your eye can actually see more levels and shade and tone in black and white than it can in color.
Oh, yeah.
I agree. I mean,
colors wash it out.
Well, I mean, you see in a lot of comic books these days, like the covers and the way they warp and stuff like that. And even on the inside, a lot of times the illustration is obviously digital. So that's one of the reasons why it looks the way it does. But sometimes like the over extra coloring, just you don't see the line work of could you imagine? I mean, you see it when they do a reprint of like an old Jack Kirby comic book and they do it with that new coloring kind of style so that everybody's like, oh, it's disgusting. Yeah. They've done it with Star Wars. I've opened a real Star Wars and a reprint Star Wars, and the difference is amazing.
Now, this is Beyond the Farthest Star, the adaptation of Edgar Rice Burroughs' short story that I do for Edgar Rice Burroughs Inc. And so I do all the coloring on this. I write the scripts, do the lettering, and do all the coloring. John Lucas does all the pencils and inks. And so your color can look pretty good, too. You got to know what you're doing. And you can make color look pretty good, too. But I know all these guys aren't as good as these old screen colors were. Because they've got this whole thing about one tone. They make everything monotone. And, you've got all these, every shade that there is out there to use. And if you know what you're doing, you can make it look pretty good.
Jason, you think you'd license something old or you'd want a new property to do for your one page?
I'm not sure. Probably would want to do something original, give somebody a chance to get, a debut or of some sort or do something like that. You Joel, you mentioned something about the cover, the color. Didn't I see something about? Wasn't there like some Titans comics that got reprinted, and they got Starfire's skin color wrong? There was something I don't even remember where it was. I just saw.
I don't know, but I've been getting the omnibuses, the omnibuy, the collections of them. I don't usually get the big fat ones, especially DC, because the binding is kind of crap.
Yeah.
But I've been getting the Titans ones, but I got to admit I haven't really gone through them, so I don't know if it's. I mean, those are the only reprints other than the trades, but you know,
something about, I think they've been reprinting Starfire a little bit more brown than orange,
so they can make it a little more like the television show.
Maybe. I don't. I mean, that would imply that they were thinking ahead.
True.
And I don't.
And they probably weren't. So I really shouldn't even have said that.
Although it is consistent, because if you assume, with Starfire being a redhead, it is entirely consistent that they have race swapped her, because they do that with every redhead.
I've seen people
genocide is real.
pay attention to that quite a bit. Not being redhead.
It's a weird phenomenon.
I was advertised on Supergirl, and so I was, watching it there for a while, see how my ads were doing. And first year I was picking up real cheap, so those were some good ads for me. But they have Jimmy Olsen on there. Well, Jimmy Olsen is like the only Irish guy that they've ever shown in movies and TV that wasn't either a drunk or a cop or a drunk cop, to mix it up. And, they turned him into a black guy. I mean, like, come on, He was the one guy who was a photographer. He wasn't a drunk cop, and no, we got to change him.
Every redhead gets replaced that way. Wally West, Iris West, Ariel, the Little Mermaid in the new musical they're doing.
Yeah, remember that.
Everywhere.
Wow.
It's such a weird thing, too. I mean,
if they do like Rob Roy, then we're really in trouble, right?
Yeah, but I mean, how is,
or was that Scottish?
How does that become a standard thing now, where if it's a redhead, the redhead gets gender swapped, or race swapped, and it's the redhead that becomes a black character. It's not a change anywhere else. It is.
I mean, when you put it that way, it's interesting.
It's very weird. Yeah, that's about
black characters becoming.
That's the new Coke variety, right?
Yeah. This is ginger ale, brown ginger.
Yeah.
So.
The term is ginger side.
Yeah.
In the chat.
There are charts that list all of the different redhead characters that have been swapped, and there are a lot of them. I was really surprised to see just how many of them there have been.
Maybe it's all stems from that South Park episode where we found out that gingers have no souls.
Oh, give them a soul, you're saying?
Well, I mean, what are you gonna do?
Marvel Comics, I was joking with all my customers that they were going to replace it with a white guy from South Africa.
Michael, I almost made the mistake of saying the next time Tim Lim comes in your store, but obviously that's not going to happen. But Tim has that chart of the ginger genocide. He'd be happy to show it to you.
Yeah, RJ, I found this.
Oh, here we go.
This is just a sampling of just some of the ones the media has swapped out as far as redheads go.
Wow.
So it's not always African American, but a lot of times it seems to be the way. Or am I just...
Well, it's every redhead gets replaced with an African American.
Who's the Mary Jane knockoff?
That's MJ, Zendaya in the new Spider-Man movie.
The thing is like...
And I know
one thing I'll say is, like, being in America, I think we really get a little too crazy and hung up on that kind of stuff, because the thing that's beautiful about America is that anybody can be an American. Well, you got to go through your things, but we got a lot of other people out here. Well,
the problem
don't kill all the redheads off.
Yeah, and it's such a weird thing that it's consistently the redheads getting swapped out with African Americans. It's not brunettes or blondes or Asians or whatever. This 1-to-1 swap every single time. It's just such a weird
Well,
thing.
the one thing I'll say is, with the exception of Annie, and maybe Little Mermaid, none of them are like main stars of the show necessarily.
They the most recent one they've done is the upcoming The Batman movie. Commissioner Gordon is now black.
Yep.
Which of course means that Barbara.
Oh, wow, he was in the movie too. The other movie, right?
No.
Who was Billy D. Williams? Oh no, he was Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent.
Harvey Dent.
Yeah.
Oh, well, what can do? Try my best here.
So yeah, the Gordon family has been replaced. That's just the latest one. But
who's the daughter? That's the most important to me. Who's Barbara Gordon?
We don't have one yet, but Rosario Dawson has done her voice in Lego Batman.
I'll tell you what, Rosario Dawson, wasn't she in that Daredevil program?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, she
Night
was.
Night
She
Nurse.
was Night Nurse. Oof.
And the Batgirl in the Lego movie, by the way, we've got the figure too. She's got a darker skin tone than the other Legos had, so they kind of gender genocided her in the Lego movie. Heroin says that they've done it to Lucifer and Sandman, but I didn't know that Lucifer was a redhead.
Well,
no, Lucifer is
they've gender swapped.
Yeah.
Gwendolyn Christie is going to play the character in the new Sandman series.
Brienne of Tarth.
Oh,
yep.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. I don't know. I that really felt like, I don't know who any of the actors are except for her, and it just felt very much like stunt casting. Or it's so funny. Like, everybody always feels like, I mean, I don't care. I don't watch television anyway. I don't watch movies anyway for the most part. So they can do whatever they want. But it does feel like sometimes they are trying hard to say, hey, look at all this that's going on over here, rather than caring if they're making necessarily a good program.
I mean, it's not like, a Sandman series is going to cause a bump in Sandman titles.
I already saw it well, man. I can't wait. A new resurgence for Sandman. I was just telling my brother.
And the funny thing is, Mindy pointed out that if you compare Tom Ellis's Lucifer, who's the same Lucifer, he's the Sandman Lucifer, Tom Ellis playing Lucifer over on Fox and now going to Netflix, and Gwendolyn Christie playing Lucifer. Gwendolyn Christie's got more of a David Bowie vibe for the comic book character than Tom Ellis does.
Mm.
Oh yeah, the Lucifer series right now is supposed to be the same character, nothing at all like it. Although I will say that I squealed like a little girl when he showed up in the Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover on Earth 666.
Yeah,
I was like, oh no, they didn't, and there he was. I'm like, yes.
Even in the television, we love continuity. Us comic fans, even the fans of only the TV superhero stuff, they've got to love it when Green Arrow shows up, or something. I don't even like Green Arrow, but I love the fact that they're mixing,
and that goes back to what Walter Hamada was saying at Fandom, is now everything is fair game. So that gives you, Grant Gustin and Ezra Miller Flashes meeting each other at the end of Crisis to show it's all connected.
The comics are the same way, because when Jeff Johns finished Doomsday Clock, it felt very much like anything was possible all at the same time, kind of like different times of, different worlds all at the same time. And then at the end of Death Metal most recently, it felt like, hey, all these things happened and all these things didn't happen, and it's all available and open. And it seems like in some way, because a lot of people in DC are people that write for TV right now, it feels like they're becoming a little bit more synchronous, I guess.
My great hope is that when they finally do get the Flash movie done, that scene we saw in the Crisis on Infinite Earths is part of the Flash movie. Verbatim, just straight dropped in there. It's, Ezra Miller coming in to do his thing, and while he's trying to do it, Grant Gustin's up. And it's probably going to be the time when Ezra Miller ends up going back to Batman versus Superman to get his message through. Am I too soon? I'm like, oh, I can time travel? Really? That's a thing I can do. I can go through dimensions. Let me give that a shot and see if I can't get this message back.
That sounds hot. That sounds cool because I was bitching that if you didn't, and I didn't see the movie, but I know of the Flash program. I've watched enough of that, and not putting Grant Gust in just the 5 or 10 minute role really shows that there's not an ability to link up the movie and the television. But now with the stuff that you're telling me, it sounds like that's what they're kind of going for, or hopefully they're going for. Which
it's an alternate Earth.
I'm hearing rumors. I don't know if you guys have heard this or not, but the Flash, we know that Michael Keaton's going to be back as Bruce Wayne, and that's going to open up maybe a sort of a Batman Beyond type of setup with him and Batgirl. But I'm also hearing that the Flash movie is also going to have at least a cameo from Linda Carter's Wonder Woman.
I had not heard that.
Wonder Woman 77.
All these Carters.
Now, she showed up at the end of Wonder Woman 84, but she wasn't playing Diana. She was playing the one, you guys, have you
Dude, spoilers.
You didn't watch it yet? You don't have HBO
You haven't seen it by now. It's all over the internet.
I don't have HBO Max. I have
the movie theater. What you ought to see it anyway.
You have to have a movie theater open near you.
Well, yeah, there's that. I went specifically so I could spend extra money at the concession stand. Because that's where they're getting hurt.
That's where they make their popcorn.
I mean, it's not really so much the fact that you need to see the movie out in the theater, although the spectacle of the movie works better on a big screen.
Yeah.
But these movie theaters are getting hit in the pocketbook because they can't sell the concessions. And part of me
now they're getting short sold
under because of that. And there's a small part of me in here that's very much, Wall Street bets kind of person saying, yeah, sell me a $20 tub of popcorn again, will you?
Man, this is the problem. People would rather download something online or order something from Amazon or order something from Uber Eats so you don't have to go out. And Corona ain't helping anything, regardless of how you feel about it. But we've already been kind of becoming a more, hey, if I got my cable and my Netflix package, what more do I need in life? And I need people to come in the store because, you got to be able to see other things. The beautiful thing about comic books is when you see a wall of, comics that are different, and you can pick up that black and white or that magazine or that, superhero or non-superhero comic book. That movie, remember, man, I love getting a VHS tape on the weekend, and you're going to watch some movies, and you're going to go and spend an hour in the bookstore to buy a book or, rent a movie or buy a record. These things are dwindling. And I know it's all about consumption, and I got all this stuff in my, these boxes of comics here. And I've got buddies with DVD collections that are, hey, he won't get aced out when they take his digital copy away. But the rest of the world is moving towards that tablet. Maybe not even having a tablet; it's just in front of you with your Google Glass.
Well, and that's part of the problem with the whole pandemic thing is that we're getting conditioned to just buy from Amazon.
Mm-hmm. They got
the small businesses are getting killed because they don't. And I think that's by design, partially at least. I think
I hate to put so much stock in that, but if only because other people make more money off of it, I would agree with you for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know anything like Mephisto in the background doing stuff, but it's someone profits. I mean, when the middle class dies, someone profits. And
Walmart today,
it's Cloward Prison.
I drove past two places that were completely bulldozed down. Both of them had been sit-down restaurants there for the past 20 years with no takeout capability. And then in Walmart, I'm dodging Walmart employees who are pushing these high racks filled with blue baskets, because what are they doing? They're shopping for the people who turn their order in on their phone, and they've got to deliver it or have curbside pickup because people aren't in there shopping.
Well, my mother-in-law does that with her groceries. She'll call the order in and she'll go pick it up. But a lot of it is, she's in her 60s, so she doesn't get out much, and doesn't want to hassle with it. And with the whole everybody who's older of a certain age is more at risk. It's just easier to do it that way. But she's still shopping with someplace local, not doing all of that. But you mentioned the death of the middle class. We're looking at Cloward Piven strategy. It's overload the system so much that it collapses, and the government has to step in and be the answer to everything. This goes all the way back to Woodrow Wilson's years. This thing's been in play for generations to get us to this point, and I think we're starting to see all of that pay out and culminate in what we're seeing now. It is just, the pandemic it's a bad thing. And I'm not saying it's not real. Both my parents got it. And my sister's a nurse. She's dealing with it all the time. But I think it was a useful tool that some people took advantage of in order to work toward a particular goal.
Was it never let a good crisis go to waste?
That's right.
Oh, it's never going to not be that way.
No.
I mean, at the beginning of it, you knew someone was going to make a ton of. I mean, if only we're talking about money. If only that, you knew someone was going to make a ton of money off of this.
People who make the masks.
It doesn't. Yeah, exactly.
And the vaccines.
Oh yeah, or the vials to put them in, right?
Yeah. It's an ill wind that blows nobody no good.
Well, and you look at the power that Amazon has, not just in market share, with everybody is now ordering from Amazon, but now you have Amazon in a position because of Amazon Web Services. They have so much power and control over how many other websites or web operations of some sort. Look what they did to Parler.
Yeah, shut down Parler.
Who else could they do that to? Because if they have that kind of power to just flip a switch and your website is gone because they don't like the color of your hair, or you have glasses, you're persona non grata now, that's too much power for any company to have.
Or if you buy stocks, they can shut you down just like that too.
Well, I heard at one point Robinhood was actually automating sales of the stock when people were not selling the stock.
Yeah. Ooh.
They were selling it for them without being told to do that. And people were sitting there going, wait a minute, why are you selling this? I didn't sell this. What are you doing?
We accidentally did that.
Yeah. Well, I think the day they flipped the switch and restricted those stocks, they already got hit with some, half a dozen class action lawsuits.
Texas Attorney General is filing suit against them because they were, the hedge fund people who had the shorts on, they were not restricted. It was just, we're restricting the people who are buying onesie twosies, who are, the little guys here, so that, the billionaires can continue selling uninterrupted. So it was a very choosy restriction on the stock. It wasn't, we're halting trading on GameStop. It was, you can't trade and you can't trade so that these guys can.
Yeah. And that thing with Paxson, I've got a copy of the press release. Basically, he's issued 13 civil investigative demands. And it's not just Robinhood, Discord, because Discord dumped the Reddit, the Wall Street Web, whatever that group is that started Wall Street Bets. Discord got rid of their room.
Oh.
So Discord dumped them. They did pretty much the same thing that Amazon did with Parler. Discord did it with Wall Street Bets. Then you got Robinhood Financial, Robinhood Markets, Robinhood Securities,
Ameritrade.
Interactive Brokers, TD Ameritrade, TD Bank, E-Trade, Webull, Public Holdings, M1 Holdings, Citadel Financial, Apex Clearing Corporation. Those are all of the ones that Attorney General Paxton has said, hey, we want to ask you some questions.
Yeah. And John De La Rose was putting up something today about Bed Bath & Beyond, totally different subject, but how they were taking the MyPillow out because they didn't like, the politics of the guy who's behind the MyPillow. Right. And I threw a snarky comment out there. I was like, wait till the Wall Street bets start shorting Bed Bath & Beyond. And somebody said, oh, they already are.
And they've hit, they've hit BlackBerry. I think I saw Nokia in the mix at one point. Bed Bath & Beyond was was something that was being mixed. AMC, of course, now is, I think AMC is up 30% or something like that. It's crazy.
So in comic books, we should get IDW, I guess.
There you go.
I don't know. Give Marvel another 5 years and we can short them, right?
Oh man, I don't know.
Maybe
they're going to crush themselves with their own weight, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're making the same mistakes they were in the 90s. Flood the market. You got all of these variant covers, all of these events, all of these new number ones, and they're all going to be worthless in a couple of years, and they're killing the direct market. Well,
again, the focus is not on the physical store anymore for a lot of things, for most things, and that's one of the reasons why we moved to a smaller location. We realize that more things are online these days and less people are walking into the store. More people are interested in picking up, this is pre-pandemic, picking up curbside or having it sent to their house, it's just the way it is. I was like, man, if I can only get Uber Eats to deal with my comic books, I'd probably be making some more money.
Yeah, but even then, if people are doing curbside, they're still buying physical product from your store.
They are,
but they're not walking in and browsing the dollar bins and the quarter bins and the
exactly. I have to hustle a lot more to sell that old issue, but more eyes are seeing my old issues than they were just in my store, so it's a good thing.
It's crazy because I sell to my subscription customers, online subscription service. And then I also have an eBay store. And on my eBay store, I'm taking an item like a 1 in 25 variant. Couldn't sell for 25. Marked it down to $12.50. Couldn't sell it. Put it on eBay. Got $50. So, I'm using the UPS or USPS to be my storefront now. They just do all the work. They do all the legwork. I hand them to them. They go hand them to the customer. And, they are my curbside delivery.
Yep. There you go. I just checked the Rafflecopter engine because I was going to draw who was going to win this Snowpiercer code for the digital Snowpiercer Season 1. Nobody wants it.
Nobody wants Snowpiercer. That was such a hot thing at one moment.
Yes, well, ironically.
It's a train that goes through snow. Oh, man, I just gave away the whole plot. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a train that goes through snow a lot.
Yeah.
A whole lot. Like for 10 episodes, it goes through snow.
Well, I mean, but it's a train that goes through snow, and Jennifer Connelly is on there.
Yes.
So, I mean, come on. There are some good things to be said about this show. Jennifer Connelly's
always worth a watch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, okay, now I want to see her on that train on a rocking horse.
It's such a bad movie. Even the Beauty and the Beast, it was hard to get through that whole movie. I just fast forwarded through most of it. Just stopped for her parts.
But you look at her now, and you look at her in Labyrinth, and you think, where did the time go?
How did I get so old?
I know, right? Rocketeer.
I'm not supposed to look at you and think I'm old.
Wow.
What was that movie where she was on the rocking horse living in
I'm going to say it was something about working.
Yeah.
Not in the title, though. I can't remember. It's
like
gonna be a drag.
the Walmart department store, and it was all set after hours.
Yeah. Maybe that's what it was. After hours.
Could have been. I've got to Google it.
Don't do it. Keep talking.
I just remember.
I'll Google it. You keep talking.
Well, yeah. Every time somebody says you keep talking, the rest of us all shut up and we run out. Because we have hit the 2-hour mark, and we should all.
Holy cow! She's my age. Holy cow!
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, man. Yeah,
Career
opportunities.
Career opportunities.
There you go. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to just refresh here just to see if anybody saw that this was an opportunity to get in there and go for it.
Career opportunity.
Right. Nobody. I will leave the link up and I'll check it tomorrow.
I remember there was like a David Letterman episode where he was interviewing her and he was like flashing back to her boobs in Fast Times, right? And she's like, I've had like a couple kids.
That was Phoebe Cates.
Phoebe Cates, yeah.
Oh, that's Phoebe Cates. That's right. I'm sorry. I couldn't remember.
That's the swimming pool scene.
That's me being 50. There you go.
I think Jennifer Connelly's first topless scene.
Oh man,
was it Of Love and Shadows? Where was that? Or Mulholland Falls? Where was it? Because I remember that people made a big deal about it. Because this is Jennifer Connelly from Labyrinth, and all of a sudden she's got her shirt off. Yeah.
Career opportunities on that rocking horse.
Well, yeah, that was just a nice sway.
Yeah, but that wasn't the first time, was it?
Hell, I am
topless in that scene on Rocking Horse. But now you got me thinking of that Mel Brooks movie, S.O.B. No, it wasn't Mel Brooks. I can't remember.
Thinking it's not just me.
There was a movie called S.O.B. and the whole thing about it was that the guy was losing money making movies, and he was going to stir up a controversy by having a family-friendly film actress be her first topless appearance, and it was Julie Andrews.
That was Blake Edwards.
Blake Edwards, thank you. Yeah.
Oh, that goes without saying, I guess. How many times did they work together?
They ended up getting married, didn't they?
Oh, really? I didn't know that. I'm a Blake Edwards aficionado. Not 100% at least.
I don't know. I don't know for sure, but I was thinking that they had gotten married at one point.
All right. Hey, we should do a whole Blake Edwards episode. What do you guys think someday?
I'm down with it. I'll have to watch the movies probably, but
the Man with One Red Shoe, is that one? And
was that Blake Edwards?
I think so. And then Bruce Willis and John Larroquette had a movie together.
Did he do that? Derek?
Oh, did he do 10? Is that him?
I'm not sure.
I think so.
Wow.
And of course,
yeah. Critical Blast After Dark.
Hey, to go back to your Wonder Woman Linda Carter reference and kind of use Bo Derek, because Bo Derek played Jade in the Tarzan movie, and there's also a Wonder Woman Tarzan connection. Denny Miller, who played Tarzan like in a 50s movie, did a whole lot of television. And I remember just flipping the channel one day and I caught a scene, and it was him with Wonder Woman. Of course, he's playing a bad guy, and he has to get to a fight with Wonder Woman. And I remember wondering, like, man, did he choreograph this himself? Because their whole fight scene basically consisted of him grabbing Wonder Woman in a bear hug, lifting her up, shaking her around a few times, set her back down, then grab her, lift her up, shake her. I was like, man, that'd be the way I'd pick the scene, if I was doing it. And I was on a Facebook Burroughs website. We were talking about that, and his he's passed now. His widow came on and said, no, he didn't choreograph that. I'm like, okay, thanks for letting us know. But so I was like, wow, Tarzan beats Wonder Woman.
You're right about SOB, by the way.
I don't know that she actually.
You guys are right about 10. Holy cow, man, that is a lot of movies.
Yep.
That guy's crazy.
Connolly's first nude scene was in The Hot Spot.
Oh, I bet it was.
Yeah, that's the one. The topless scene that I was thinking of, because I remember there was a lot of talk about it, because this is Jennifer Connelly from Labyrinth, but apparently it was an impressive view.
Well, and Virginia Madsen's in it. Oh my goodness.
there won't be any more controversial topless scene than there was with Brooke Shields. So
wait, that was the most controversial?
Yeah, Brooke Shields was in a movie called Pretty Baby where she was in a brothel and she was topless in one scene. But Yul, the thing is, she's 12.
Yeah.
She was 12. What about like Pia Zadora? Wasn't she like a youngin' when she did her stuff? Remember her? She was like an 80s weird. You know how like how did you become a celebrity?
I don't think she was that young when she did some of her stuff.
Well, 12 is pretty young, but also 12.
None of these things you're talking about.
Is that like a sexy nude scene or just a 12-year-old nude scene?
Well, she was in a brothel, Yul. So.
Oh, a brothel. I didn't.
Yeah.
Well, I
mean, I think that's what I remember here. I never saw it, but read about it.
Yeah, it was in the news. I didn't see the movie. I didn't.
Well,
too young.
I mean, that's like, yeah.
Yeah,
I was just asking for clarification.
I mean, there was blowback for Brooke Shields in Blue Lagoon, even.
Yeah,
I have seen that one. Yeah,
was she underage in that one?
I want to.
I don't.
Was she? Heroenberg says she was 14 in that one. I don't think she was.
Shit.
She was.
That's great. It was a different
time.
A different world, really? Because like. That's crazy. Oh my God. But I was like that age at that time, and I wasn't obviously seeing Blue Lagoon when I was a kid. And also, it's not really one of those movies I give it about.
things have changed. If you've got a copy of the Christopher Reeve Superman 1 movie where they haven't cut out the scene where he lifts the car when he lands on Earth.
And he's got his little dingling out.
Yes.
No, that's when he comes out of the rocket.
The rocket.
He's wrapped in the cape when he lifts the truck.
Do they?
It's when he comes out of
that out now.
They've cut it out. Well, they cut it out of the network broadcast, but it's on the DVD.
Oh, okay. Phew. Yeah. I mean, that's innocent. It's no brothel.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I was going for. I'm like, what was the situation? What about Jodie Foster? She didn't get nude, but she played an underage hooker in like Taxi Driver.
Yeah,
that's pretty. I mean, I don't know what her age was at the time.
How did you get on this in comic books?
I want to say she was.
Oh, sorry. Well, because of Jason.
13.
Remember when
she was young,
hitting on Scarlett O'Hara in the opening scenes of Gone with the Wind?
Yeah.
Please tell me. I was talking about Gone with the Wind earlier, but it's kind of a boring movie for a kid.
I do remember him there. He was one of the twins.
Yeah, in the opening scene, it's a place called the Old Mill, which is actually not very far from where I live. It's a historic site down here, and it's still intact like it looked like in the movie. And there were these two Confederate soldiers both hitting on Scarlett O'Hara. She's not giving them the time of day. And then war breaks out, and you don't ever see him again. That was George Reeves before he became Superman.
George Reeves, that's right. Yeah, Superman, that's right.
Jodie Foster was 14 for Taxi Driver.
Damn. Well, I mean, again, at least there was no nudity in that. So she's a great actress. I mean, she's one of my all-time favorite actors altogether.
She tells the story of rehearsing with Bob De Niro for that. And there was a scene that they just went through, and De Niro just took her through it, and they practiced until she was just so sick and tired of it. And then it came time to shoot it, and she said they had done it so many times that when De Niro started to improvise, she was able to go right along with it because they'd done it so much. She was able to just kind of follow along because it was all emotional beats at that point. And whatever you said fit the emotional beats, and she was able to just go right along with it.
I think she's amazing. By the way, I want to go on record. Jodie Foster, amazing.
I've apparently got to watch Taxi Driver in order to understand Rorschach. So, because that was Alan Moore's inspiration, was Taxi Driver with Rorschach.
Taxi Driver.
Well, and Taxi Driver is a reference for Joker as well.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. I believe that. Totally. I kind of felt like, when I'm seeing like stills of the movie or scenes, I guess, that there felt like there was a taxi driver vibe going with him.
It really does feel like kind of the 70s crime thriller, Popeye Doyle, Dirty Harry type of aesthetic in that film. Scorsese, De Palma.
Yeah, I didn't like Joker. I'm sorry, but I mean,
I didn't like it either. It's hard.
I prefer my Joker to have had his skin bleached white by falling into a vat of acid, and he's a really good guy with chemistry and laughing gas and practical jokes. And
well, to be a good movie, you're going to have highs and lows. The lows make the lows higher, and the highs make the lows lower. And with the Joker, it was all one beat, low, low, and then let's get even lower. It didn't have enough modulation.
Well, it's an art film.
True. So it happens on Earth art because all the DC Extended Universe films exist now. So it'll be in its own Earth. Guys, I don't want to keep you any longer than we have. We have wandered into some strange places here in the last hour.
Yeah, clip out that last 15 minutes.
Yeah, Dave will come back. Dave will come back later after he's a couple more drinks in. Say, what did they talk about tonight? Holy!
We're going to put a rating on this episode.
We're just talking about art.
It's all about art. Before we leave here, guys, what are you guys looking forward to getting into the shop? What are you getting orders for, Michael? As far as DC and Marvel and the other stuff goes, what's going to be, because you do have to order 3 months in advance. That's the whole bit where they have the non-returnable. So what are you guys expecting to be the hot thing over the next 3 months here?
I wouldn't say I'm expecting anything to be hot right now. I do like the way I'm working with Lunar to buy my DVDs now. One thing I like about Lunar is you order just the final order cutoff. You don't have to do the advanced catalog and then do your order all over again. You just do it one time when you know what it's going to be. With Diamond, you still got to do the big advance order and then do the final order cutoff again, which means you're just doing double work on everything. So that's a little tedious.
Lunar is nice that way. I agree.
And they've been doing a good job. I mean, it's very good packing. I was using the UCS before them, and UCS took real good care of me. I mean, it was just difference of night and day between what was going on with Diamond. Now, I will say that Diamond has finally switched me over to Plattsburgh, and said I've gotten away from Olive Branch at all. I mean, I'm getting shipped out of New York instead of out of Memphis, which is just like 3 hours for me, and my shipping costs have gone way down. The quality of my orders have gone way up. The damages have just disappeared. The shortages have just disappeared. I mean, it's just a difference of night and day. So Diamond's finally taking a lot better care of me. I mean, if they had been doing this, even with the pandemic, I probably would have never closed my stores. But they had just it damaged my business of constantly being short every week. I remember when I was, selling off all my excess inventory, and I was talking to the guy who was buying it, and I was telling him about it. He just didn't quite believe it. I said, well, here, look at some of my invoices. Here's just the last month. And he's looking at it going, my God, with all these shortages, how could you stay in business? I'm like, close it down. I kept telling them they were going to do it.
Michael, do you think that has anything to do with Josh Jeppy being named Chief Creative Officer here not too long ago? Do you think maybe he's got some say in some changes to try to make some of that stuff better?
Well, Steve's come back to the company too, and I've noticed things getting better since Steve came back. And Josh Jeppy is one of the things Steve has done to bring his son in and make him part of the company. And they got rid of the guy who was running it, so I am seeing improvements in Diamond. And because it could have gotten much worse. I mean, the whole industry was just going to go away. And I will say another thing too is like back when, because I've been doing this nearly 40 years, and back in the 90s when everything collapsed and you went from 7 distributors down to 1. If you would have asked me to pick any of the 7 distributors, Diamond would have been the one I picked, because I think overall they did better than any of the others would have, but still simply no competition. There was no reason to try. Steve retired, let this other guy run it, and it was just like, let's just screw everything down as much as we can. All the services and everything went away. It was like, well, okay, what's easiest for Diamond? We don't care if it's damaging to the business. Became the mantra, and they just screwed my business into the ground. I mean, just so many different things they were just damaging me with. And I'm glad to see them making changes now. I mean, like I say, if they'd done this way back when I still had my locations, I probably never would have closed the stores because I could have weathered the pandemic. But as it was, when you put that on top of all the other things going on, the wage going up, people not wanting to come in the stores anymore, hard to find help. Just when you put all that together, and I was like, that's it. I'm just going online. Plus, I have other things I want to do with my creative stuff. I've got so many writing contracts I've taken on. So it gives me more time to work on that stuff. So it was just one of those things. It was kind of a no-brainer. Like, yeah, let me just go a different direction. Because I would have been hemorrhaging money this whole time. I had 5,500 square foot of retail. And even still now, Marvel and DC, they're not making enough product to pay the bills. So I would have been losing money the whole time.
I'm sure you're not the only shop that's done that too from this pandemic. I don't know how many have closed, but we'll never see the counts because a lot of people are diamond account. Like you've kept your diamond account, so technically your store's not closed.
Right.
If you see the diamond numbers.
Okay.
So they're you go on Twitter or Facebook and say, retail shops are closing. Someone comes up and says, no, here's the diamond numbers. Look, they've actually gone up 5.
They used to count a fish and bait tackle shop here in Arkansas as a comic book store because they had this little spinner rack and they ordered through Diamond to put some comics on that rack. And that was counted as a comic book store. So anybody who buys any comics in any form at all, all the Hastings stores that used to be competition with me, every one of those was counted as a comic book store because they were all ordering through Diamond. So the way they count is like, if you have an account with Diamond, you're a store.
Yeah.
Exactly. All the mail order folks. That's the way that Diamond counts their numbers. I called Diamond a couple of years ago because I had a question about a story about sales numbers on a book. And I had them confirm to me on the phone from their publicity department that, yes, when they overship a book, that counts as a sale. So if you bought 5 copies and they give you 15 more, they sold 20. So if Marvel wants to sell 1 million copies of something, they will sell 1 million copies of something. They might have sold them for nothing and charge you guys the shipping to get it out, but they'll print 1 million, put them out there and say, hey, we sold 1 million, and no one's going to question otherwise.
Yeah, the store sells 1 copy, but it's all counted as if he sold them all, and he didn't.
Yep, it's a numbers racket for him. Jason, what do you got coming up on SciFi4Me over the next week or so here?
Well, coming up on Monday and on Live from the Bunker, we're going to have a couple of investment people coming in. We're going to talk about the GameStop thing.
Cool.
Monday night, we got H2O. I don't know what we're going to be talking about yet. I am in email back and forth with Flint Dill to talk to him about the new Buck Rogers project. And we've got a new Salacious Crumbs Tuesday night with all the Star Wars news, and then Ranker Pit Friday night and Tartar Sauce on Friday. So we've got a full week next week. And anybody that goes to any of our social media, our show schedule is in the header artwork. So we've got it up there nice and clean so everybody can see when our shows run.
Yes, Jason actually has a schedule. Appointment television is the phrase that you've drilled into my head.
Yes.
So, it's not just, pop up anytime and, oh, look, I got an alert that SciFi4Me is going to do something. I better run and get to a computer. When it's coming on. You can get your meal ready, get your drink ready, sit down and watch, and it's going to be on time. Just like a television station. That's why it's SciFi4Me TV.
Yeah, and we made it easy for people to remember. So SciFi4Me.tv will take you to the YouTube channel. So you don't have to worry about this big, huge, long alphanumeric thing. You can just type in SciFi4Me.tv and it'll take you right to it.
There you go.
You're right. That's the way to look at it. Is it's a TV channel that happens to be on YouTube. So
I got a bit of Buck Rogers trivia for you. Gil Gerard, who played him in the 70s TV show, North Little Rock, Arkansas guy. They actually had their world premiere, their movie down here in North Little Rock. Only world premiere we ever had, probably in the state of Arkansas.
We had a chance. We had a chance to interview Gil. I think I've interviewed him twice and moderated a panel when they were here for Planet Comic Con one year. So he's a good guy.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, guys, as always, I appreciate you coming on the show and talking comics and sci-fi and topless actresses appearances with me.
Wow.
RJ, when Dave comes back, just tell him we talked about the Gungan seahorse theory. He doesn't have to know about anything else.
There you go. The Gungan seahorse theory. You got it. I'll make him look that up.
CVP.
Jennifer Connelly and Rocky. Yeah, they're okay.
Tune in to Comic Book Bob's channel tomorrow if you like wrestling. I just want people to know that. He's in the chat.
Cristobal 5 on Kickstarter now.
That's the one right there. That's
right.
the guy.
Follow Comic Book Bob. Get out to his channel. Got the links in the description below, folks. That the Snowpiercer giveaway will run up to midnight, and then it'll close out because I only opened it for a day for this show. I really thought that would just get bombarded with, yeah, I want to own, this digital television series about a train that goes through snow for 10 episodes. But
yep, got to make his wife eligible now.
yes, Mindy, get in there. You've got a shot.
It's after 9. It's pumpkin hour. She's probably already going to bed.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. Jason, thank you for coming on and sharing with us. Everybody get out there to SciFi4Me.tv. Take you to the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button and hit the top bell. It's got the little wavy lines out to the side so you never miss an episode. And if you haven't done that here, go ahead and do that as well. We'd appreciate it. We've got 1,300 subscribers and grateful for all of you. With that, we will be back with the LCS guys in 2 more weeks, 2 Saturdays from now at 7 p.m. Central. And until then, we hope you all had